Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for streaming this session. I hope you're doing well, all things considered. I'm Kristian, I'm the Head of Engagement, leading revenue growth for Finecast in the UK, managing new business, client relationships and partner strategy. If you want to build a successful brand today using TV in the new digital normal age, then I believe there's two essential components to making that a reality. Then the first is scale. Why does scale matter? So scale matters because it presents brands with an opportunity for both impact and growth. If you think about this, brands' creative messages still need to be seen in order to have the desired impact amongst consumers. The magnitude of that impact is largely dependent on three key elements: the budget, the exposure, and the scale. And if you read anything from Ehrenberg, Bass, Andrew Ehrenberg found that advertising is effectively a weak force, meaning that its impact on consumer choice is modest at least. Therefore, you need to hit people at scale. It's primarily about getting a weak response from a large number of people. So therefore, you need to target all category buyers, which linear TV has been really effective at doing historically. So linear TV has been really effective both short term and long term. And we ask ourselves, why is that? So firstly, it's the quality of reach that you get. It's inherently viewable, it's regulated, it's brand safe, and trusted amongst consumers. Secondly is scale. And I'm going to kind of highlight two pieces of research that support this in the last year or so. So the first one was the insights that came out of demand generation. And one of the reasons TV is so effective is because it has the highest headroom for spend, i.e. you can deliver more volume on TV before hitting a point of diminishing returns. And then also the ubiquity profitability study demonstrated that TV delivers 71% of total advertising generated profit, despite only commanding 54% of average advertising budgets. And then thirdly, it's resilient. Despite all the disruption that we've experienced over the decades, it's remained somewhat stable in terms of viewing. However, TV changed more in the last 5 years than it has in the last 50. And if we look at what's changing, well, clearly the viewing, the way in which we watch TV has changed, both in terms of having a bias towards more on demand, recorded live TV, pausing, watching live TV on the go through apps like Sky Go, but also the proliferation of devices that we can now watch TV on. So it's no longer just the big screen in the corner of the room. There's a multitude of different screens that we can now watch. And all of this has had an impact on overall viewing figures. Linear TV has steadily declined as a whole, with some of the younger audiences showing the highest declines in viewing, whilst AVOD year on year, this year alone, is up almost 30%. So we're seeing a general trend from linear into on-demand platforms. Now, whilst this has all been proliferating and changing aggressively over the past few years, we've really noticed that measurement struggle to keep up. And the measurement that we've embraced historically has served the linear TV industry really, really well, but it doesn't feel fit for purpose. If you look at some of the reports coming out, there's an estimated 15% of TV set viewing that currently isn't captured, and that's significant. And the lack of measurement has really been down to the lack of collaboration in market, but there has been some significant progress on that point. We're also witnessing a myriad of new entrants coming into market with subscription-based models like Netflix, which has recently reported a 60 million jump in subscriptions, as well as Disney Plus commanding north of 50 million different subscribers since its launch. So there's significant growth in that area. And in the UK, Over 50% of UK households now have an SVOD service, and 21% now have 2+ SVOD services. So all of this is impacting TV, linear TV, and really what we can start to conclude is that TV is slightly less effective than it used to be. Commercial audiences are down, and therefore, are we going to reach a tipping point where we're going to have a lot of audiences moving over to subscription-based models and are no longer reachable through commercial advertising? So for TV advertisers, the TV world is looking significantly more complex. Traditionally, TV has been a powerful one-to-many advertising play, a way for brands to reach viewers and category buyers with high-quality ads viewed alongside professionally produced quality content. But the way in which viewers are consuming TV is changing. And it's hard for any channel to deliver the scale, efficiency and effectiveness that advertisers have been used to with linear TV. But what's becoming infinitely clear is that you can no longer build brands using linear TV alone. And we see more and more new connected TV and OTT platforms and entrants coming into the market. And as video continues to proliferate, it's critical you define what premium means to you and your brand as these relatively unknown platforms grow in volume and in scale. The great news is that TV advertising is advancing, making it easier for brands to segment and reach viewers through addressable TV advertising. So really, we need to approach TV differently. So scale matters. Clients don't want to access pockets of addressability. Therefore, partnerships and alliances underpinned by technology and data have to be the future of TV. Technology is essential to managing the fragmentation challenge in that it allows for connections and automation, and data allows for insights, optimization, and measurement at an unfathomable scale. So all of this should mean more efficient, relevant, effective ads on TV. So if we take a look at what the UK addressable marketplace looks like, and this is by no means an exhausted set of options, but my point being is the market has been making progress insofar as it has been leaning more into technology and data. However, we now have a myriad of point solutions or silos, for want of a better word, surfacing addressability via largely owned and operated media, owned and operated data and measurement, which limits the opportunity for scale. So at Finecast, this is something we've been working on for 6 to 7 years, and really, this highlights the challenge of taking addressable TV in-house. It's certainly not a plug and play scenario like a lot of digital display. There's limited standardization in terms of ad servers in the broadcast market, and this has been a 6 to 7 year journey for us, where we've built integrations into distribution, so all the different devices in which content can be viewed. So that's Samsung TVs, it could be Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku boxes, Sky set-top boxes, etc., and into the premium content providers. So this is largely today for us content providers that have heritage in the broadcast world, but increasingly we're seeing more premium addressable video from outside of traditional broadcast as well that we'll be looking to integrate. And these integrations are complex. For Channel 4, for example, requires 2 separate integrations if we want to integrate into Samsung TVs versus an integration into Channel 4 content on a UView box. And let alone in the UK now, when we look at the IHS data in 2019, we're estimating that there's about 40 million plus TV set devices that are used to access this content through Roku boxes, Xboxes, etc., which is a significant level of fragmentation. Then you need to develop relationships with the relevant data partners. So we work with a myriad of household data partners, ranging from MasterCard, who who provide transaction data, to the DVLA, who provide information on car ownership, etc. So allowing us effectively to manage reach and frequency in a brand safe environment across almost 11 million households in the UK, and we're just getting started. So to navigate this complicated world, you need specialists, you need relevant data, technology, and ultimately a willingness to accept that TV advertising in the future will be wherever the audiences are. So to illustrate my point further, we worked with Volvo. They wanted to increase consideration for their SUV model, and we partnered with a company called Mobster. So Mobster were able to build location-based mobile data and to create an auto intender segment. And this was used not just with Finecast, but across the entire media plan. And then Finecast was obviously the addressable TV platform that made it possible to target that audience at a household level and postcode level. And with a relatively modest budget, we were able to target almost 670,000 households in the UK with an average completion of 99% and an average frequency of 1.67. So quite an element of scale to a relatively small segment and audience. The research found that Finecast delivered incremental footfall on top of the other media impressions, such as linear TV, of 4.17%. And critically, the omni-channel campaign drove an uplift of more than 30% in dealership visits overall, which was the proxy KPI for consideration. So clearly, if we are to recognise the true scalability of addressable in TV, then we need the linear space to adopt more technology and more data. Primarily, the BVOD market is all addressable or is addressable ready. But we're going to see more uptake of various technology solutions, whether it's AdSmart, whether it's audio content recognition, whether it's HBB technology, to enable more of the TV advertising market to adopt addressability, and that's how we'll reach true scale. Group M last year made a forecast that by 2024 we believe 30 to 50% of all TV impressions will be addressable in some way, shape or form. So that's the scale part of the equation. What are the other things that we feel are important? Is unified reporting. So how do I know who's seen my ads and how many times have they seen it? Well, the good news is, again, is unified reporting is slowly becoming a reality, albeit imperfect. So again, we have a myriad of different solutions here in the UK, different methodologies from the Comcast C-Flight, which is adopted by Sky here in the UK, or will be adopted by Sky, as well as some of the other broadcasters. You have Audience Project and Tech Edge, which Finecast have adopted, which I'll talk about on the next slide. We have some ambitious initiatives through Project Origin, which is a combination of the WFA and ISBAR. And then we have the current gold standard in linear Barb, who are trying to repurpose their measurement to capture the reality of the new world of TV viewing. I think progress in this space has been relatively slow, and for all the right reasons, it's incredibly hard to solve. And we are starting to see pockets of collaboration, but not anywhere near fast enough to keep up with the changing landscape, which is why we observe a proliferation of disparate solutions. There's definitely going to be a need for standardization, but that standardization needs to be gold standard. It needs to uphold the standards that Barb have upheld for the last 50 plus years. So I feel that Barb are probably the best and well positioned to deliver a gold standard for TV viewing. So I just wanted to touch very quickly on what we've been doing at Finecast. So in July 2019, we developed a partnership with Audience Project, and through that relationship, we are now able to offer a unique cross-broadcaster consolidated view of reach and frequency on all non-linear Finecast campaigns. I won't go into the details of how we can do that, but feel free to drop me a note, and I'd be happy to share with you the absolute detail of what we're doing there. Again, it's an imperfect solution that requires fusion of different data sources, but it does accurately portray a view of reach and frequency. The good news is that we've been working with Audience Project to offer our advertisers a consolidated view of reach and frequency metrics across both non-linear Finecast campaigns and those that run across linear TV. So we've made this available through a custom data sync and panel merge with the Barb viewing data, which is facilitated by TechEdge. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that now on every single campaign that runs on both linear and Finecast, we can get a view of what reach looks like for the linear portion of the campaign. We can get a view of what reach looks like for the Finecast portion of the campaign, and we can get a combined view of both of those two things. So we can actually start to understand the incrementality that Finecast brings, and therefore then start to do some cost analysis on the cost efficiency of your total TV campaigns when it comes to reach and the savings that we can offer. Interestingly, as we find ourselves in these unprecedented times, you'll have all noticed, those that are investing in the linear TV space, that Q2 we've seen significant deflation in market. For those clients that have done lots of analysis and understand the ratings corridor, or the most optimal number of ratings on a weekly basis that drive the optimal return on econometrics, will now be able to afford way more ratings than they could previously. So we're actually working with some of our clients within WPP to understand how can we reallocate some of those ratings that are no longer efficient in the linear space and redeploy in the non-linear space through Finecast to drive cost-effective incremental reach, but also then being able to measure that as well. And contrary to that, we could also look at the opposite. You know, when the market starts to recover, whenever that is, we'll probably see a resurgence and a double down of investment in linear TV because of its efficiency, its scale and effectiveness. And we'll also then start to see some inflation in prices. And I wonder if the opposite would be true, in that we can start to look at cost-effective reach in Finecast to offset the inflation that we see in the linear TV space as well. So that's something that we're interested in testing over the next couple of months and quarters. So scale and impact will require partnerships and alliances. You'll need technology and data to allow you to manage the view fragmentation, and you'll do that by accessing all supply and understanding who saw your creative and how many times. But critically, as video continues to proliferate, it's critical we reinforce our commitment to delivering ads in viewable and brand safe environments. And I think those are table stakes that have served us really, really well in the linear space. So why wouldn't we continue that in the non-linear space? However, something to consider, access to scale and unified reporting isn't enough. I think we still need to engage our thinking and our brains. You know, how effective are different types of AV? How effective is Twitter versus Facebook versus broadcast at driving both short-term and long-term objectives? And then understand whether the price that you're paying for those formats is fair based on what you know. Secondly, as technology and data becomes more prominent in the TV space, in the video space, how do you understand the relationship between non-addressable and addressable formats, and how do they interact with one another? And then two other points here is, don't forget to lean into creative opportunities. In the non-linear space, we have more creative opportunities on the table. That doesn't mean that we have to totally recreate specific creative for addressable formats, but we can repurpose, we can iterate, we can add end frames, we can add different voiceovers, test, learn, understand how data can be used to inform your creative development and distribution. And then finally, test and learn, start to understand, start to lean into this space, so start to understand and form an opinion on some of these questions that I'm answering. Across WPP, we've got 250 plus clients that have lent into this world, and we've now got 3 years of understanding and experience, which will help and forge your plans for the future. So I'm going to leave it there. I know we've got a Q&A after this, so please do send your questions to the hashtag, and I'll be more than happy to answer those. Thank you.